The wind was cold that night, moving through the empty streets of Colony E7. Captain Ryan sat alone in his small metal cabin, listening to the soft hum of the heater outside. The stars shone above the black desert, their light sharp and distant. He had been living here for almost a year, away from the busy spaceport and the noise of other people. Ryan liked the silence, the way the night stretched long and quiet. But that night, the quiet did not last. It started with a sound, a knock, slow and heavy. Ryan looked up from his cup of tea, unsure if he had imagined it. He waited, listening. The wind made the old walls creak, then the knock came again, louder. This time, someone was outside. Ryan stood, his boots heavy on the steel floor. Not many people visited at this hour. In fact, not many people visited him at all. He moved to the door and pressed the small camera feed. The screen flickered, showing the shadow of a figure standing in the cold, tall, still not moving. Ryan's brow furrowed. He didn't like surprises, especially not on a colony this far from Earth. He reached for the old pulse pistol on the table, its metal cool in his hand. One more knock sounded, slow and deliberate. Something in the rhythm made his chest tighten. It was not the knock of a friend. It was the knock of someone desperate. Ryan opened the door. The cold air rushed in, stinging his skin. She stood there, an alien woman, tall and graceful. Her skin shimmered like silver under the pale colony lights. Her long, dark hair moved slightly in the wind. Her eyes were wide, not human, but deep. And full of something he could not name, she wore a long cloak, the edges worn and frayed from travel. Her hands were clasped in front of her, as if holding on to courage. Ryan said nothing at first. He had seen many species in the war. But the Viren were rare out here. Her voice broke the silence. "I need help," she said softly, her words clear but slow. "My children need a father." Ryan's fingers tightened on the doorframe. He wasn't sure he had heard her right. Her gaze did not move away from him. She looked at him as if she had already decided something, as if she had walked through storms to stand here. The words hung in the cold air. Ryan's mind moved fast. Viren. Widow maybe, refugee from the Drex war. It was dangerous to be seen helping her. The human colonies were not kind to alien strays, and yet she looked like someone who had lost everything. Her cloak shifted in the wind, and he saw two small shapes behind her legs. Children, hiding, their silver eyes staring at him without blinking. They looked half frozen, their clothes thin for the desert night. Ryan stepped aside. It was not a decision he made with his head. It was one his heart made without asking. She hesitated, looking past him into the small cabin. Then she nodded once and led the children inside. The warmth hit them. As the door closed, the children stood near the wall, silent, watching him. Their eyes seemed older than their faces. Ryan put down the pistol. "You should explain," he said quietly. She removed her hood, revealing high cheekbones and skin that caught the light like polished metal. "My name is Lariah," she began. "My husband died in the war." Her voice was calm but heavy, each word carrying weight. "The Drex burned our homeworld. My people are scattered." She glanced at her children, her lips pressing together for a moment. "We have no one, no food, no place where we are safe." Ryan listened, his arms crossed, her eyes found his again. "I can work, I can help you, I can warm your bed," she said without shame. Ryan blinked. He was a soldier, not a stranger to blunt words, but the way she said it was not like an offer. It was survival. Outside, the wind pushed against the cabin walls. Inside, the heater hummed. Ryan knew what it would mean to let her stay. Trouble whispers from the colony. Maybe visits from people who asked the wrong questions. But when he looked at the children, thin and pale, he knew he couldn't send them back into the night. He poured them each a cup of water from his ration tank. They drank silently, never taking their eyes off him. He felt like they were studying him, not with fear, but with a strange kind of measuring. As if deciding if he was worthy, Lyraya sat down on the small bench by the wall, her cloak wrapped tight around her. "You are human," she said, almost like it was a fact of great meaning. "Humans. They fight for those they care about." Ryan didn't answer. He wasn't sure if that was still true for him. The war had taken most of the people he cared about, but now, with this alien widow and her children in his cabin, he felt the old weight of responsibility returning, and outside, somewhere in the dark, he thought he saw movement, a shadow passing by the window, slow and careful. The knock might not have been the only thing that came to his door tonight. The heater's hum filled the small cabin, but the air still felt cold. Ryan stood near the doorway, watching the alien woman and her 2 children. Lyraya sat on the bench, her hands resting in her lap, her eyes fixed on the floor. The children stayed close to her, one on each side, their silver eyes wide and alert. Ryan could see the dust of travel still on their clothes, the faint marks of exhaustion on their faces. They had come far, and whatever they were running from had not stopped chasing them. "Tell me," Ryan said finally, his voice low. Lyraya lifted her head slowly, as if the movement itself was heavy. "My name is Lyraya," she repeated. "I was born on Viren Prime, a world of blue seas and silver forests." Her gaze grew distant for a moment, as if she could still see it in her mind. It was beautiful until the Drex came. Ryan knew the Drex, warlike, merciless, their raids leaving nothing behind. "I married a soldier," she continued. "He fought for our home. He died for it." Her voice did not shake, but there was a depth in it that made Ryan's chest tighten. She placed a hand on her children's shoulders. "These are my sons, Aaron and Sol." The boys glanced at Ryan, then quickly looked away. "They are all I have left," Lyraya said. "When our cities fell, we fled with the survivors. We moved from colony to colony, but no one wanted Viren mouths to feed." Ryan could imagine it. Alien refugees treated like burdens, watched like thieves. Lyraya's eyes locked onto his. "I cannot protect them alone," she said. "I cannot give them food or shelter, or a safe place to sleep." Ryan leaned against the wall. "And you came to me because," he asked. Her voice softened, but her words cut deeper. "Because humans are different. You fight for family. You guard those you love." Ryan's jaw tightened. "That was before the war," he muttered. "Now humans fight for themselves." She studied him, as if weighing his soul. "Then perhaps I chose wrong," she said quietly, "but I had to try." The cabin felt smaller somehow, the silence pressing in. Lyraya's next words came like a sudden spark. "I can work," she said. "I can cook. I can fix things. I can guard your home while you sleep." She paused, her gaze steady. "I can warm your bed." Ryan stared at her. The offer was not playful, not romantic. It was the offer of someone with nothing left to trade except herself. It was survival turned into currency. Ryan felt a flicker of anger, not at her, but at the universe that had forced her to say it. "You don't need to," he began. But she cut him off. "I do," she said firmly. "Not for me, for them." She nodded at the boys. "They need a father. Someone who will not abandon them." Ryan swallowed. The war had left him with no family, no ties, no reason to care, and yet here they were, standing in his cabin, bringing with them a feeling he thought was dead, responsibility he looked at. The boys again. Aaron, the older one, kept his head down, but his small hands were clenched into fists. Sol, the younger, stared openly, his silver eyes unblinking. There was no fear in his gaze, only curiosity. It made Ryan uneasy, like the boy could see straight through him. "What are you running from?" Ryan asked finally. Lyraya's lips pressed into a thin line. "The Drex," she said. Ryan frowned. "The war is over," he said. "Not for us," she replied, her voice sharp. "They hunt the last of the Viren bloodline, and my children." "Are the last?" The heater clicked, filling the room with a soft, mechanical sigh. Ryan felt the weight of her words. If the Drex wanted them, they would not stop. It meant danger would follow them right to his door. It meant trouble for anyone. "Who helped them, you should know," Ryan said. "If you stay here, they might find you." "They will find us anywhere," Lyraya answered. Her calmness was strange, not fear, but acceptance. "We can keep running until they catch us. Or we can stand somewhere and fight." Ryan rubbed his hands over his face. He had fought enough battles, enough hopeless stands, but the image of the boys alone in the desert night twisted something inside him. Finally, he spoke. "You can stay," he said. The relief in Lyraya's eyes was subtle, but it was there. She nodded once, a small movement filled with meaning. "You will not regret it," she said. Ryan wasn't so sure. Outside, the wind howled against the cabin walls. But somewhere beyond the wind, he thought he heard something. Else, a distant hum, like an engine moving closer. He didn't know it yet, but trouble had already found them. Morning came slow to Colony E7. The twin suns rose over the black desert. Painting the sand in red and gold, Ryan had barely slept. He sat at his small table. Watching Lyraya move quietly around the cabin, she poured water into a dented kettle. Her movements calm and precise. The children sat together on the floor, their knees pulled to their chests, their eyes following everything. It felt strange, having others in his home. For a year, this cabin had been silent. Only the sound of the wind and the hum of the heater. Now there was breathing, whispers in a language he did not understand. And something else, something he could not name. Ryan told himself this was temporary. He was giving them a place to rest, food to eat, nothing more. But even as he thought it, he knew it was a lie. They were not like the other refugees who passed through the colony. There was a weight in the way Lyraya looked at him. Like she had chosen him for something. And the children, they were too quiet, too watchful. It was like they were listening. For things no one else could hear. After breakfast, Ryan stepped outside. The air was sharp and dry, the kind that cracked your lips if you stayed out too long. From his porch, he could see the colony's edge. The distant metal towers that marked the market square. A small group of miners walked past, giving his cabin a quick glance. He knew they'd noticed Lyraya yesterday. Rumors traveled fast here. An alien widow showing up at a human soldier's door was the kind of story that spread. Ryan didn't care about gossip. He cared about trouble, and trouble had a way of finding him inside. Lyraya was teaching her sons how to clean the small heater vents. Ryan leaned on the doorframe, watching. She didn't treat them like fragile children. Her voice was firm, her instructions clear. They obeyed without question, moving with quick, efficient hands. Ryan noticed how they handled tools like they already knew them. Where did they learn that? He asked. Lyraya glanced at him, on the run. "You learn to fix what you need to survive," she said simply. The day passed slowly. Ryan showed them where the water filters were, where the food stores were kept. Lyraya offered to cook, and soon. The cabin smelled of something warm and spicy. Ryan didn't recognize the scent, but it made the place feel less like a bunker and more like a home. He sat down at the table, and the boys joined him without being told. For a moment, it felt normal, almost peaceful, but Ryan knew better than to trust peace. That night, the desert was quiet. Ryan lay in his bunk, staring at the low ceiling. Through the thin wall, he could hear the faint voices of Lyraya and her children. They spoke in Viren, a language of smooth tones and soft clicks. At first, it was like listening to music. But then, something strange happened. The air in the cabin seemed to hum, a low vibration. Almost like the hum of a ship's engine. Ryan sat up, frowning. The sound faded as quickly as it came. He wondered. If it had been his imagination, the next morning, Ryan found Aaron, the older boy. Standing outside, he was staring toward the horizon, where the desert met the sky. Something out there. Ryan asked. Aaron didn't look at him. "They're coming," the boy said softly. Ryan's stomach tightened. Who's coming? But Aaron only walked back inside, his small bare feet silent on the metal floor. Ryan watched him go, uneasy, later. Ryan went into town for supplies. The market was busy, full of shouting traders and the smell of metal dust. He bought ration packs, fuel cells, and a few tools. But everywhere he went, he felt eyes on him. A man at the tool stall asked casually, "You got guests at your place now?" Ryan ignored him. Another man muttered something about alien trouble. Ryan kept walking. He'd been a soldier long enough to know when people were looking for reasons to act. And the colony was already restless. When he returned, Leriah was outside, fixing a loose panel on the cabin wall. The boys were inside, sorting through a box of wires. "You shouldn't be out here alone." Ryan told her she didn't stop working. "They already know I'm here," she said. Her voice was calm, but her hands moved quickly. "They will come sooner than you think." Ryan stepped closer. "You mean the Drex?" Elia nodded. "They will not stop hunting my children," she said. "They are the last of the royal bloodline." Ryan froze. Royal. She met his eyes. "My husband was not just a soldier. He was a prince of our people." Ryan stared at her, the truth sinking in. The Drex weren't chasing her for revenge. They were chasing her for power. And now, they would come here, too. His door. That night, Ryan didn't sleep. He sat by the window, watching the desert. The stars shone cold and far away. Somewhere out there, in the dark, ships were moving, and he knew it was only a matter of time before they arrived in the corner of the cabin. Aaron and Sol slept close to their mother. For the first time in years, Ryan felt the weight of something. Bigger than himself. He didn't ask for it. But it was here now, and soon. He would have to decide how far he was willing to go, to keep it, asterisk. Night fell heavy over Colony E7. The twin suns had long dipped below the horizon. Leaving the desert wrapped in cold shadow, Ryan sat at his small table. Cleaning his old pulse pistol by the dim yellow light, the cabin was quiet, except for the soft clink of metal parts. Leriah had put the children to bed early, saying they needed rest, but as Ryan worked, he noticed something strange. At first, it was faint, a sound like wind moving through glass. Then he realized it was coming from the other side of the wall. He set the pistol down and listened. It was whispering, low and quick, in the smooth, clicking tones of the Viren language. He couldn't make out the words, but the rhythm felt different. Not like normal conversation, more like a chant, and under it, almost too faint to notice, was a low hum. It reminded him of the vibration of a ship's engine at idle, but there were no ships nearby. He stood and stepped softly to the door of the sleeping area. It was half open, and through the gap he saw Leriah sitting on the floor with her two sons. The children had their eyes closed, their hands resting on their knees. Leriah spoke to them in a slow, measured voice. Her tone was calm, but there was weight in every word as she spoke. The hum in the air grew stronger. Ryan felt the fine hairs on his arms rise. The air almost seemed to shimmer. He blinked, and for a heartbeat, it looked like faint silver light was coming from the boy's closed eyes. He stepped back, his boot making a soft scrape on the floor. The sound stopped instantly. The hum faded like a wave pulling back into the sea. Leriah turned her head toward the door. Her eyes met his in the shadows. She said nothing, and neither did he. A moment later, she placed a hand on each boy's shoulder and whispered something. The children opened their eyes, the silver glow gone. Ryan walked away, his heart steady, but his thoughts racing. Later, as he lay in his bunk, he couldn't stop thinking about what he had seen. He had fought in the war, seen strange weapons, alien tech, things science couldn't explain. But this, whatever it was, felt different. It wasn't technology. It felt alive. He wondered if it was connected to why the Drex were hunting them. And if so, what danger he had just invited into his home. Hours passed, but Ryan couldn't sleep. The desert. Outside was silent. Too silent. No distant hum from mining rigs. No chatter from the night traders. Just stillness. He got up and checked the small security screen linked to the outside cameras. Most of the view was empty sand and the dark outline of the colony walls. But then, in the far corner of the feed, a shadow moved. It was tall, hunched, walking with a slow, deliberate pace. Ryan adjusted the zoom, but the image blurred. The figure vanished behind a dune, leaving only black night on the screen. In the morning, Ryan went outside. The air was cold, the kind that bit at your lungs. He walked toward the edge of the colony, scanning the ground. There were faint tracks in the sand, too large to be human. He knelt and touched the print. Fresh. Someone had been watching his cabin last night. He glanced back and saw Lariah standing at the door, her cloak pulled tight. "You saw something," she said, not as a question, but as a fact. Ryan didn't answer. She stepped closer, her voice low. "They're here." The rest of the day passed in tense silence. Lariah stayed close to the children, keeping them inside. Ryan kept his pulse pistol on the table, fully charged. The boys sat near the heater, whispering to each other in their strange language. Every so often, one of them would glance toward the window. Ryan noticed it every time. It was like they could sense something moving beyond the walls. That night, the whispers returned. Ryan didn't try to watch them this time. He sat in his bunk, listening. The hum filled the air again, soft but steady. It made the metal walls feel warmer somehow. And once, just once, he thought he heard a voice in his own language. It was faint, like a thought, more than a sound. "They will come soon." He sat up, heart pounding. The cabin was silent again, the whispers gone. But he knew he hadn't imagined it. Outside, far beyond the edge of the colony, lights moved in the dark, too low to be stars, too steady to be natural ships. And Ryan realized the whispers weren't just a warning. They were a countdown. Night fell heavy over Colony E7. The twin suns had long dipped below the horizon. Leaving the desert wrapped in cold shadow, Ryan sat at his small table. Cleaning his old pulse pistol by the dim yellow light, the cabin was quiet, except for the soft clink of metal parts. Lariah had put the children to bed early, saying they needed rest. But as Ryan worked, he noticed something strange. At first, it was faint, a sound like wind moving through glass. Then he realized it was coming from the other side of the wall. He set the pistol down and listened. It was whispering, low and quick, in the smooth, clicking tones of the Viren language. He couldn't make out the words, but the rhythm felt different. Not like normal conversation, more like a chant, and under it, almost too faint to notice, was a low hum. It reminded him of the vibration of a ship's engine at idle, but there were no ships nearby. He stood and stepped softly to the door of the sleeping area. It was half open, and through the gap he saw Lariah sitting on the floor with her two sons. The children had their eyes closed, their hands resting on their knees. Lariah spoke to them in a slow, measured voice. Her tone was calm, but there was weight in every word as she spoke. The hum in the air grew stronger. Ryan felt the fine hairs on his arms rise. The air almost seemed to shimmer. He blinked, and for a heartbeat, it looked like faint silver light was coming from the boy's closed eyes. He stepped back, his boot making a soft scrape on the floor. The sound stopped instantly. The hum faded like a wave pulling back into the sea. Lariah turned her head toward The door, her eyes met his in the shadows. She said nothing. And neither did he, a moment later. She placed a hand on each boy's shoulder and whispered something. The children opened their eyes, the silver glow gone. Ryan walked away, his heart steady, but his thoughts racing. Later, as he lay in his bunk, he couldn't stop thinking about what he had seen. He had fought in the war, seen strange weapons, alien tech, things science couldn't explain. But this, whatever it was, felt different. It wasn't technology. It felt alive. He wondered if it was connected to why the Drex were hunting them. And if so, what danger he had just invited into his home. Hours passed, but Ryan couldn't sleep. The desert. Outside was silent. Too silent. No distant hum from mining rigs, no chatter from the night traders, just stillness. He got up and checked the small security screen linked to the outside cameras. Most of the view was empty sand and the dark outline of the colony walls. But then, in the far corner of the feed, a shadow moved. It was tall, hunched, walking with a slow, deliberate pace. Ryan adjusted the zoom, but the image blurred. The figure vanished behind a dune, leaving only black night on the screen. In the morning, Ryan went outside. The air was cold, the kind that bit at your lungs. He walked toward the edge of the colony, scanning the ground. There were faint tracks in the sand, too large to be human. He knelt and touched the print. Fresh. Someone had been watching his cabin last night. He glanced back and saw Lariah standing at the door, her cloak pulled tight. "You saw something," she said, not as a question, but as a fact. Ryan didn't answer. She stepped closer, her voice low. "They're here." The rest of the day passed in tense silence. Lariah stayed close to the children, keeping them inside. Ryan kept his pulse pistol on the table, fully charged. The boys sat near the heater, whispering to each other in their strange language. Every so often, one of them would glance toward the window. Ryan noticed it every time. It was like they could sense something moving beyond the walls. That night, the whispers returned. Ryan didn't try to watch them this time. He sat in his bunk, listening. The hum filled the air again, soft but steady. It made the metal walls feel warmer somehow. And once, just once, he thought he heard a voice in his own language. It was faint, like a thought, more than a sound. "They will come soon." He sat up, heart pounding. The cabin was silent again, the whispers gone. But he knew he hadn't imagined it. Outside, far beyond the edge of the colony, lights moved in the dark, too low to be stars, too steady to be natural ships. And Ryan realized the whispers weren't just a warning. They were a countdown. The tunnel was narrow and dark, the walls pressing close on both sides. Ryan moved at the front, his pistol raised, every step measured. Behind him, Lariah carried Sol, the younger boy. While Aaron stayed close to her side, their breathing was quick but quiet, the kind of silence you learned from running too many times. The air smelled of rust and old machine oil. Somewhere above, faint rumbles shook dust from the ceiling. The Drex were still tearing through the colony. It was only a matter of time before they found the hatch. They reached a junction where the tunnel split in two. Ryan paused, scanning. Each path, the left side sloped downward, leading to the old power cells. The right side bent sharply toward the abandoned launch bay. "We take the right," Ryan said. Lariah's eyes narrowed. "Are you sure?" Ryan nodded. "They'll expect us to hide near the power cells. They won't expect us to run for a ship." They moved quickly. Boots crunching softly on the grit-covered floor. The hum from the boys grew stronger. It was faint at first, but Ryan felt it in his chest, almost like it was keeping pace with his heartbeat. He glanced at them. Their eyes were brighter in the dark, catching every shadow. Aaron kept glancing behind them, as if he could see something Ryan couldn't. Lariah noticed his look, but said nothing. Whatever the hum meant, it wasn't fear. It felt like Focus! A noise echoed from behind. Boots, heavy and fast. The Drex had found the tunnel. Ryan cursed under his breath, motioning for them to move faster. They broke into a run. The narrow space made every sound louder. The children moved without stumbling, as if they had memorized the path. Ryan didn't question it. He was too busy counting the seconds until the Drex caught up. They turned the final bend and saw the steel door to the launch bay. It was half open, hanging crooked on damaged hinges. Ryan slipped through first. Sweeping his pistol across the space, the bay was huge. A hollow metal shell with echoes that stretched into the dark, old shuttles and cargo haulers sat in the shadows, covered in dust and sand. Most were useless, stripped for parts years ago. But near the far wall, one shuttle looked intact. Its silver hull was scratched. But the landing gear and engines were still in place. Ryan's pulse quickened. If she can fly, we're getting out. They crossed the open floor, their footsteps ringing against the metal. Halfway to the shuttle, the sound of boots returned. The Drex had reached the bay. Shadows moved in the doorway, tall and sharp. Ryan spun, firing 3 quick shots. Blue light flashed as the bolt struck Drex armor, forcing them back. Go! He shouted to Lyraya. She didn't argue. She pulled the boys toward the shuttle, their small hands gripping the ladder to the hatch. The Drex returned fire. Plasma bolts hissed through the air. Scorching the floor near Ryan's feet, he ducked. Behind a cargo crate, firing again, the Drex were spreading out, trying to flank him. Ryan's mind raced. They didn't have time. Then, from the corner of his eye, he saw Aaron stop climbing and turn toward the soldiers. His silver eyes glowed brighter than before. The hum in the air surged. For a moment, the Drex froze mid-step. Their weapons lowered slightly, their movements slow. It was like they were pushing against invisible water, Aaron. Lyraya's voice cut sharp through the air. The boy blinked, and the glow faded. The Drex staggered forward again, shouting in their guttural language. Ryan grabbed the ladder. Climbing fast after them, Lyraya was already at the controls. Can you fly this thing? He asked. She gave him a look that said yes without words. The engines coughed, then roared to life. Dust and loose metal swirled in the bay. The Drex fired again, bolts slamming into the shuttle's hull. Ryan returned fire through the open hatch. Covering Lyraya's takeoff, the shuttle lifted, its landing gear pulling free of the floor. A Drex soldier jumped, grabbing the edge of the hatch. Ryan swung the butt of his pistol into the soldier's helmet, knocking him back to the ground. The hatch closed with a heavy clang. The shuttle rose higher, clearing the bay doors. Then they were in the open night sky. The colony shrank below them, just a cluster of lights in the dark desert. The Drex ships began to move, their engines flaring. They're coming after us, Ryan said. Lyraya's hands moved fast over the controls. They will follow until they can't, she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were fixed ahead. Ryan strapped himself into the co-pilot seat. Where are we going? Somewhere they won't, she replied. The hum from the boys filled the cabin now. I'm stronger than ever. Ryan realized it wasn't coming from the engines. It was coming from them. The shuttle's speed increased, the stars stretching in two. Thin lines. Ryan stared at the boys. He didn't know what they were doing, but for the first time he felt a flicker of hope, and far behind them, the Drex ships began to fall away. The stars drifted slowly past the shuttle's canopy. The hum inside the cabin had faded, replaced by the low, steady sound of the engines. Ryan sat in the co-pilot seat, his pistol still resting on his thigh. Lyraya was at the controls, her silver eyes fixed on the endless dark ahead, behind them. Aaron and Sol were curled up in the passenger seats, their heads leaning against each other, for the first time since they arrived at his door. They looked like ordinary children, but Ryan knew better. Nothing about this was ordinary. They won't follow us much longer, Lyraya said quietly. Her voice was calm, but her hands still moved over the controls, making small adjustments. They've already lost our trail in the asteroid field. Ryan frowned. That trick with the boys. What was it? Lariah glanced at him, but didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked back at her sons, a softness in her gaze. They are the last of the Viren royal bloodline, she said finally. They carry what my people call the star bond. Ryan didn't speak, letting her continue. It is not just a title, she said. It is a gift. And a curse. They can hear thoughts if they choose, bend the will of others, even stop them. Her voice was heavy, as if each word cost her. Ryan remembered the way the Drex soldiers froze in the launch bay, the glow in Aaron's eyes. The hum in the air, it wasn't luck, it was them. That's why the Drex want them, Ryan said. They want the star bond. Lariah nodded slowly with it. They could control armies without firing a shot. Ryan leaned back, exhaling. Slowly, so now they'll hunt you forever. Us, Lariah corrected. Ryan glanced at her. You open that door, Captain, she said. You let us in. The words hung in the air. Ryan looked at the boys again. He had told himself this was temporary. That once they reached a safe place, they would be someone else's responsibility, but safe places didn't exist for them, and he had seen enough war to know what happened to children who were hunted. The silence stretched until the shuttle's console beeped. A warning light flashed long range. Sensors picking up movement. Ryan leaned forward. They found us? Lariah checked the readout, then shook her head. Not Drex, she said, but human. She brought up the com feed. A grainy image appeared. A small human patrol ship. Markings from the Outer Rim Defense Force. Ryan knew them well, too. Well, they'll ask questions, he said. They'll see the boys. The bounty alerts will ping on every console they have. Lariah's eyes met his. If they take us, the Drex will find us, and if we run from humans, we'll be hunted by them too, Ryan replied. It was a choice between two dangers. The patrol hailed them. Ryan's hand hovered over the com switch. Lariah spoke first. You have to choose. Ryan, she said. Do we keep running alone, or do we risk trusting your people? Ryan's mind flashed with memories, missions gone wrong. Civilians caught in crossfire, orders that had cost lives. Trusting the Defense Force wasn't a safe bet, but going alone meant never stopping. He looked at Aaron and Sol, still sleeping. They're breathing steady. They deserved more than running. They deserved a chance to live. He pressed the com switch, patrol ship. This is Captain Ryan Hale of Shuttle Eco 7, he said. I'm carrying 3 passengers under my protection. The voice on the other end crackled back. State your cargo and purpose. Ryan hesitated. Refugees, he said finally. No cargo, no weapons besides my own sidearm. The pause that followed was long enough to make his stomach tighten. Then the voice replied. You are ordered to dock for inspection. Lariah's gaze was sharp on him. This is your last chance to change course, she said. Ryan didn't answer. He guided the shuttle toward the patrol ship's docking bay. The metal walls closed around them, the hiss of the airlock ceiling loud in the silence. The hatch opened and 2 human officers stepped in. They scanned the cabin quickly, their eyes landing on the boys. Captain, one of them said, you know there's a Drex bounty on these children. Ryan stood between the officers and the boys. They're under my protection, he said. You'll have to go through me. The officers exchanged a look. Then the older one said, then you better come with us. All of you. Ryan didn't know if it was rescue or arrest, but he had made his choice. The boys stayed close to Lariah as they followed the officers through the docking tunnel. Ryan walked beside them, his hand near his pistol. He didn't trust the Defense Force. He didn't trust anyone. But if they were going to have a chance at a life without running, this was the first step. As the doors closed behind them, Ryan glanced at the boys one last time. Their silver eyes met his, and he felt the hum again. Faint but steady. It was like a promise. Whatever came next, they would face it together.